The Orangetown Planning Board session of March 9th is now session. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to have a roll call of members. Mr. Sweeney, President. Thank you. Now I'm in trouble. Thank you. And Mr. Andrew, Mr. Mandel here. Mr. Linehan. Here. Mr. McCory. Here. Mr. Day. Ferry, I'm sorry. Here. Okay, all present. Mr. Sweeney, you have something to say?
Yeah, for the first item, every time this matter, the applicant has been before this board, I've accused myself due to a previous relationship, so I'm going to ask to accuse myself in this matter again tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. First item is Dominican College Athletic Complex Site Plan, PD 22-12. There's some people here for it. Oh, fancy meeting you here, huh? Yeah, it's just because of you, we had to come. I came all the way back from Florida just for this.
Brian, when you start, can you make sure the microphone's on and speak clearly into it? The acoustics in this room are not the best. Is it just you, Brian? What's your name, sir?
Matthew Molan,
Can you spell your last name for me?
M-O-H-L-I-N.
Okay, sir, would you explain your project?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Brian Quinn. I'm the attorney for the applicant.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, good. I'm with the firm of Blakely Platt Schmidt, 1 Blue Hill Plaza, Pearl River, New York. And we're here tonight on behalf of Dominican College, and the application is for improvements to their existing athletic field and the installation of a new running track over there. You may recall that when we were here back in November, I believe it was, and we, at that meeting, November 10, 2021, we had a lengthy hearing. We received preliminary approval from this board, and you also granted us a negative declaration under SEQA, the State Environmental Quality Review Act. We then proceeded to the town board because we needed a watercourse diversion permit, and we appeared before that board on November the 30th, 2021. And after making our presentation, and there was a public hearing, the watercourse diversion permit was granted unanimously, as I recall. We then proceeded to architectural review, the Ackerboard board. We were there on February 17, 2022. We made several changes to the landscape plan that you saw the first time around. At your request, you had asked for some additional screening on the south side of the field and a couple of other things. Ackerboard did review that and unanimously approved the landscape plan and the rest of the project. So now we are back here this evening for hopefully final approval. We did go through a lengthy presentation back in November, but I know that there are some new board members, so we're prepared to spend as much time as you'd like to hear, answer whatever questions that you may have about the project. I have Matt Molan here. I have a number of other people. We have the gentleman who prepared the landscape plan, and several other people. So depending on the question, I may ask some of them to come up and introduce themselves and answer the questions.
Fine, very good. Lisa, do you have any questions or comments?
I'm familiar with the plan. I can see the original presentation. I just have a couple of questions. I know a lot of neighbors are concerned about lights and those were removed from the project. I am wondering though if portable lights are going to be allowed, can it be brought in and out? That's a concern some of the neighbors have.
in before?
Oh,
We bring the correspondence.
You
I know you've been on vacation for 2 months, so
I'm sorry,
you need to follow
I haven't done
protocol.
this for
Sorry,
2 months,
Lisa,
so
hold
I-
your thoughts.
a brand new person, but easy to keep your questions handy.
All right.
Okay. Office of Building, Zoning, and Planning, Town of Orangetown, dated March 4th, Lynn Slavin. She has 2 comments. Office of Building, Environmental Benefit and Engineering, Bruce Peters, March 4th. 5 comments. Okay, Walker Engineering, March 7th. The application has provided significant information to demonstrate that potential significant adverse impacts with respect to drainage can be mitigated. We therefore recommend that the Dominican College Athletic Complex site plan be approved for drainage subject to the above project comments, of which there are 6. Thank you. Rockland County Department of Planning, February 14th. They have 7.2 comments. Rockland County Health, February 6th. We have received application plan prepared for the above project based on the information provided. All necessary Rockland County Department of Health approvals have been obtained. The Rockland County Highway Department, January 27th. They just have one comment saying that it would not be reversed to county roads. I have a letter from a Ellen Hart dated February 2nd. She's from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. I have a letter from Alfred Gaddy, I believe he's Orangetown, dated March 9th, no, dated January 20th. Based on our maps, there does not appear to be any conflict with existing gas service. I have a letter dated February 16th from the Rockland County Department of Health saying that the comments are attached. I have a letter dated November 13th, 2021 from Patrick and Michael McNee. And then I also have the sequel. Anything else? Thank you very much. Okay, now I go back to where I stood up before. Please, go ahead.
I was asking about portable lights, are they gonna be in use? And, is it written in that no lights will ever be allowed, or can you come back to the board and request that change down the road?
The preliminary approval resolution, item number 5, says there shall be no portable light used for the rest of the field. As far as permanently saying no to lights, no. As a real estate attorney, forever is a long, long time. This question came up, and I believe Mr. Warren responded at the preliminary approval resolution saying that if we ever want to install lights, it would have to go through the planning board. It would have to be an amendment to the site plan. There would be a public notice. All of the neighbors would have to be notified of that. So at this point, we have no plans to do that, but forever is a long time, so we'd rather not do that.
I think what I had said is the installation of permanent lighting and portable lighting, that if you were going to want portable lighting or permanent lighting, you would have to come back to the town to get a permit for it.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, Mr. Swing. Well, I'm long, too long, I'm sorry. Please, everybody forgive me.
That sun in Florida is hot, huh?
I know. Too much to drink down there, too. Mr. Andrews.
Couple of questions. I believe the last time you were here for a preliminary, I think there was a condition made where you had to do a site study and I believe for the PA system, a sound study. And I don't see that anywhere.
I don't recall requesting a sound study. What we said was that it would comply with town noise code. And the field is only going to be used because there's no lights. It will only be used from dawn to dusk.
Okay, what about the site from the press box?
I believe
Was
that
there a condition made for that?
We did have a site study, we had a line of sight drawing that was included.
I didn't see any line of
Is that in these
sight
plans?
drawings. page 11, item number 9, site plan, Chestnut Oval on Fulton Road, from the property line to the first spot, this condition. I didn't see it in my plans, I don't know if anybody else did. I know it was a late night that night, and that was one of the conditions right at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, it's not within the plan, my apologies. It was in the, it's an OPAC presentation.
It was in the prior presentation.
I actually have it.
Yeah, it's
So
not-
I do have it in the current presentation tonight.
In the presentation that's up on the, that was provided,
Can you flip to that?
yeah, you have your, there you go, you should be good. Tested it. And you have a pointer option on that.
So you can,
You're welcome to stand up if it's easier for you.
it's on.
You have to turn it
Probably
on.
have to turn the switch on.
Yeah, push it up.
There you go. So this is currently, this is a view from the current field towards Chestnut Oval. The trees that you see there are not part of the rendering, those are existing trees that are there now. So the line of sight is currently, does screen, you can't see the homes on Chestnut Oval from the field. Likewise, it would be difficult to see the field from the homes on Chestnut Oval. The image on the bottom
You gotta hold it in, there you go. You gotta hold the button in.
Okay, so you'll see, so on the bottom left,
I think the battery's about shot, man.
No, it's brand new.
Oh.
I just wanted to see what you're doing in the background.
You can go up and, but if you
Yeah,
touch
sorry,
it,
sorry. So you're right.
it's a touch screen, so if you touch it, it's gonna give you all kinds of stuff.
Do that. So what we have here, this is a scale drawing of the site, although there is a break line in the middle. Obviously, the field would be much wider than this. But we have a person here with a 6-foot fence in front of it. And if they were actually looking right through the top of the 6-foot fence, they would be seeing new trees. And if they were able to see straight across, they'd be looking at the top of the proposed press box. So look, the field is about 7 feet below the property line right now. So the trees we see here are the trees you see here. There's not a lot of sight between them, and we're also proposing additional screening to go in front of the current trees along the property line.
So the green dotted line on the top view, what does that represent?
So that represents, so we have a series of new landscaping that's going along the front of this existing landscaping. That green line represents the mature growth of the trees that were planted.
And the field is going to be dropped how many feet?
Well, it's about 5 to 7 feet currently below the ground at the property line. This is not a cut. So the field does exist currently about 5 to 7 feet below the grade of the neighboring properties. We're not changing that to any significant extent, so we're gonna have to be 5 to 7 feet below.
So that hill where those 2 pine trees are, does that exist or is that gonna be a burn?
The dark green are proposed. This is existing vegetation.
Yeah, but there's a hill right here.
Yeah, there actually is a hill there right now. We are cutting down a little bit right there. The existing field is not currently flat. It's a little, it's warped. So we are cutting down a little bit. Where you see those bleachers towards the
So how high
vegetation,
is that gonna be
about 5 to 7 feet.
5 to 7, so it's gonna be like a berm? in other words.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the kids running around will be, you'll see the tops of their heads,
Right.
if you're lying on the ground.
How many of those trees are gonna come out, on Chestnut Oval side there? The mature trees? I mean, I looked at your list of trees that are gonna be taken out.
So here's a an aerial view, it was a drone shot that we took. The area outlined in red is the approximate limit of the trees that are coming out. So you can see most of the trees along the property line of Chestnut Oval are staying in place. Towards the southern end, we have to take out a little bit to get the corner of the track in. But this plan represents, we did do a tree survey. We went and identified all the trees on site and counted up the ones that were going to be removed. We had a total of 79 trees in excess of 8-inch diameter that are coming out, and 42 small diameter trees that are less than 8 inches in diameter.
79 large,
Large as a building, in excess of 8 inches.
in excess of 8 inches. And 42 small.
Under 8 inches.
The list looks like a lot.
So the list that you see, the gray is what's being, we are putting back 48 new trees along the west and southern property lines.
What are those trees?
We have white oak and Norway spruce.
I see a lot of big, see a couple of black walnut trees you're taking. You selling them?
Again,
Especially when it's 26 inches in the air. There are a lot of beautiful trees. But like you said, you went to Akabor and they approved it. So go over that site thing again for me a little bit. So when you're in the press box, you're gonna be actually looking over the houses on Chestnut Oval?
well, the press box is, 250 feet away from the property line. So this would be the view from the press box right here.
And you're not, now, a lot of those trees that you see, meaning they
Yes.
leave the trees.
Existed, yes.
So,
Yeah,
and
some
you're gonna add some pines and some
double road.
Can I make a suggestion? I was on Akabor. I was the chairman of Akabor. And, I don't know, kind of, you putting in like, some spruce and stuff like that, right? I'd like to see some green giant abricot. That tree grows 3 feet in a year.
You're welcome.
No?
No?
Year 8. They're very, very deer resistant. They'll grow 3 feet a year. They'll grow to 30 feet tall, maybe higher,
Well,
and they'll have a 25-foot spread at the bottom.
So I explain what trees are going in there, because they are spruce, and they're also putting in white oaks, huh?
Yeah, white oaks grows, you'd be lucky if a white oak grows 6 inches.
I have with me Ken Kelkai, he's a landscape architect with our firm, and he can speak more to the trees.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Ken Keltai,
Could you spell your last name?
Keltai. I'm a landscape architect, I'm also a certified arborist, so I actually survey the trees that we're talking about. But as far as,
Get a little closer to the mic.
sorry, better?
Yes.
So as far as the Norway spruce.
Closest to the mic, please.
Really?
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
It's shouting.
Don't be shy.
If you can, you can speak as loud as I can.
Okay. So the Norway spruce also grows 3 feet a year. I do know that the arborvitae is not as deer resistant. We've had other projects where
Green giant abricot.
green giant.
There's a lot of different abricot's.
Okay.
You go with a green giant, it's deer resistant. More so than the spruce that you're gonna put in.
Okay. I think the other purpose of the spruce was the additional height. It was much larger.
60.
Yeah. As far as the white oaks, there's only 4, and those were just sort of, just to break up
What's the caliber on that?
of the white
White
oak.
oak, yeah.
I believe we're putting 3.5 to 4 inch. I mean, it's slow growing, but over time, it'll just add a little contrast. It has a little more wildlife.
And 50, 100 years.
They'll outlive the spruce.
Now, along, what's the other street there? I forget the name of it.
Chestnut Oval is,
Chestnut Oval and then the one on the south.
Well,
What's got, it looked like you're gonna take a lot of trees out of that area. On Carlton side, yeah.
so we can see, there's an open area in here, there's a kind of a finger of trees. We're maintaining as many as we can along the southern property line, we're also adding some additional trees along the southern property line, similar to what we're doing.
You're gonna put it like in that bare spot right there?
It's gonna go, yeah.
Some trees in there.
Right,
So the field's coming over pretty far.
yes, well, I mean, closer than it is now.
Closer than That's all I have right now. I'm waiting for it.
Mr. Mendo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your plan indicates 35 spruce on the
Here,
west
Mr.
side.
Mandel, get closer to the
Oh,
mic. Hold it on the side here.
how's that, better?
Better.
Okay, good. Your plan indicates 35 spruce on the west side and 9 on the south side. You indicate on the plan C 4.0, a height of 6 to 7 feet mature height. Is that correct? That's what it says on it, mature height. That's the top.
6 to 7, no.
Is that the planting height?
Mature height is, I mean, it installed, the mature height is significantly more than 6 to 7.
It's gotta be planting height. Let's take a look at C 4, please.
That's,
Now look at the top. Under the Norway spruce, 6 to 7 feet mature height.
that's the installation side.
So you're coming in, okay, because originally at the meeting of November 10th of 21, you spoke of trees coming in at 10 to 12 feet in height. Is there a reason they were shortened?
It was not intentional, I assure you. They do come in different sizes. If that's
Oh, I
going to be
know.
a condition, we can certainly put in 10 to 12 foot high at install.
That's my opinion, but I think that will make the screening a lot better at that point in time. Okay, and the plan shows 9 spruce on the south side of the field. However, as per our request noted on PB 20-57 dated November 10, 21, page 10, condition 4, 80 replacement trees were requested. We're only getting 9 over there.
There is not sufficient room to put in 80 new trees.
But taking a look at taking a look at plans on CO.0, looking at the south end, which would be the Carlton Road side. And I see there's the track. There's a lot of trees being taken down. Why are all those trees? Not the ones that are in the culvert, but all those trees around it.
So you're looking at C 0.0?
Yes, C 0.0.
0.0, so I would direct you to the tree removal plan.
Well, I'm looking at the plan here with the trees that we will done. The tree removal plan doesn't tell me exactly where the trees were. To look at it, I'm looking at the first page.
So
Which page are you referring to?
look at C 1.1.
there's a lot of trees being taken down, it doesn't show me in relationship to the field or really in relationship to the,
If you go back to C 0.0,
yeah.
if you're looking at that large kind of cluster at the southwest corner.
No, I'm looking at the, in the center,
Where the culvert is.
where the culvert is, right in the center.
Okay, kind of where the, in front of the lacrosse court?
In other words, you have the,
At the end of the field.
the end of the field where the culvert starts, it goes
Yeah.
all the way through.
Yes.
Right around that area, taking out quite a few trees there. What's the rationale for taking those trees out?
Well, that's where the water course is being diverted, and there's a significant amount of earthwork that needs to be done in that area to reroute the water course. The grade is changing, so the tree cannot stay in place.
Well, how many trees are we gonna replace that with? Just the 9 along that whole section?
Well, we're also providing additional wetland plantings along the banks.
Also low, I'm talking about screening trees, trees for screening. I know you're putting in the things for the water plants that go along the culvert and everything, I understand that, maintain it. But I'm talking about larger trees for screening, because if you look at the landscape plan, all you have is 9 trees along that whole, which is C 4.0. All I see on the south side is 9 trees, and they only go as far as the west side of the culvert.
Yeah, so if you look, continuing further along,
Yeah, all those are little plantings.
yeah, so everything south of that new water course diversion is existing vegetation.
Those are
They
little,
may not be significantly large trees, but there's vegetation in there, and we were not planning to touch that. If you'd like us to cut down vegetation in there to
no,
plant
no, it
more
looks like
trees,
you're
we can do
taking down
that.
trees in there. All those extras are trees down. If I'm correct on that, I'm looking at page 1, the first page, any trees that be taken out to deal with the extra.
Yeah, project,
What's your name, sir?
Robert Wintermeer,
Can you just spell your last name for me?
W-I-L-D-E-R-M-U-T-H. D-E-R-M-U-T-H.
Great, thanks. Go ahead.
I'm senior project architect on the project. We are taking out the trees that you're showing in the X's in this area. However, that's the significant area of grading. We are pushing the water course diversion around towards the lower corner of the track, where the culvert's gonna go. The trees are smaller size in that area along an existing embankment. So we are putting the trees in up to that point, but there is a significant hill. We're
Putting
trying to
the
keep
trees up to the point where the culvert starts. And after that, you're not putting in any trees, just low-growing plants.
correct, because we're leaving the existing trees up to the north. These existing circles are there, are shown.
Yeah, and there's whole blank areas where there should be screening between the neighboring properties.
You're getting the trees along this route in here,
Right.
they're coming up to here.
And then nothing on the other side.
These are the existing trees along
Right,
this
now
side.
put the big space right where your finger is.
This whole area is gonna be the wetland
Correct.
of
Go
the
back.
grasses as well as bushes
Go back to where you started.
right here. There's no tree right there, you're
There
absolutely
should be
correct.
trees there. We need screening for the neighbors. I know you're putting in whatever grasses you need for the culvert. However, we need to consider the property rights of the neighbors too, which would be screening in there. And I'd like to see trees there, that's my opinion, but I wanna see before that. Because we put in a thing asking for 80 trees over there as a condition, which is listed, condition number, as I mentioned before, it's condition number 4, thank you, on page 10, we asked for that, there was no objection at the time. So I think we need more trees to put screening in there, trees that are going to, screen neighbors' property. They don't want to be looking out and seeing from here. You know, the trees that are there, you're putting in some nice trees on the other side, but there's nothing over here. Those trees lose the leaves over in that area, you're not gonna have any sort of screening.
But we can't fit 80 trees to the south.
Well, you gotta put some in there,
Oh, understood.
You know, I'd like to see how many are gonna be put in there and how it affects the screening. I know you went back before, but, I'm wondering why, as a planning board member, I'm asking those questions. If you notice that in the planning board decision, item number 52 on page 19, planning board retains jurisdiction over landscaping. It's for informational purposes. Okay, now the berm, that was page 11, number 7, calls for 4-foot-high berm on the west side. Is that a natural contour, or is that contour going to be created as part of the work?
There is a slope, there is an embankment there now.
Yeah, it goes from 91.81 up to 95 to 97, 197.
So we are cutting it down a little bit towards that area, so it's probably about 5 to 7 feet, the height of the berm.
Okay. We're gonna go line of sight, which is shown in, where's I only saw the one line of sight from the, okay, we just asked from Chestnut Oval and Colton Road. All right, the property, the press spots, all right. All right, now, the DEC comments, it was an email February 2nd to 22. It asked about alternatives to consider, documentation, clarification regarding the other side's culvert. Has that been answered?
We responded to them, we have not received response back from DEC.
And the slip plan that was submitted, that was accepted as far as
The SWIP has not, we received additional comments from Bruce Peters.
okay, so that still has to be completed also, so that culvert could be possibly larger.
No, the culvert, that is not a comment from Mr. Peters.
Okay, it's just the DEC.
Yes.
Okay. All right, the two speakers that are shown on plan C7.0, state they're gonna be directed down towards the spectators. It's above them, goes down to the bleacher level. What would be the decibel level on the other side of the field, on the west side? Because originally, I think somebody asked they wanted the speakers directed more towards the spectators from the front or sides, so you have at the top pointing down. How much of that goes out onto the field and go past the west side?
I don't have an exact number. We're limited to 100 decibels at the property lines.
So that's quite a bit of decimal.
Yeah, I mean, we're also 265 feet away.
Well, that was the reason I was asking, was anything, do you have any idea at the noise level or decibel level it's going to be at
I
the?
don't have an exact number of decibel level.
It will comply with town code.
All right, but the 100 decibels at the property line is a bit high, especially when you're on the neighboring property.
It's only gonna be used intermittently. Our games are being played,
All games or just the college games?
just the college games, I understand. Yes.
And just a comment of mine, it's only as I said, in my opinion, I know you're gonna rent the fields, the outside groups, on January 26, 21 meeting, you stated to be amenable to restricting hours and days, and it's my opinion, but I think that all events and games, not college games and events, other than to rental, should conclude by 6 p.m. That provides a more tranquil environment for the neighbors. I'm just expressing it for the comments of the rest of the board.
Well, because there's no lights, the field is only gonna be used dusk till dawn, and in some instances then, dawn till dusk.
Oh, okay. That was the whole, because that was the other way around.
I'm an all-nighter myself.
Okay,
But
yes.
no, dawn to dusk, and in some instances, dusk will be before 6 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, but in other instances, you're talking about 9 o'clock. If you're renting it out to different organizations, so many soccer groups play till 9 o'clock at night.
There's no lights there.
I know, but the summer, I'm talking about the summertime. But this, in my opinion, should, end at 6 o'clock, so that's what I'm just suggesting to the members of the board. Thank you, and I'll reserve my additional comments if any public. Thank you very much.
Ms. Lenahan.
Can you go back to the site, Jane, I'm sorry, can you go back to the sight line? We can jump around.
Which sheet was that?
There you go. So, I guess, when was the picture taken on the top? It looks like it was probably in the summer.
I don't have an exact date, but based on the vegetation of the trees, I would say it's in the summer.
Right, so it's a little misleading about what kind of coverage would be provided, because most of these games are gonna be in the fall and spring for the sports that are gonna be played there. So it would be a lot more bare, I'd imagine. So when you're proposing your spruces and your pines along there, they already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but to make sure that the heights of the trees you're gonna plant to replace some of the trees you're taking down should be of a significant height.
So at install, you can see the trees are already extending above the height of the fence. So that's already blocking the view at
Okay, right, so
installation.
just going back to what he had mentioned though, because he said it was like the 2-inch caliber maturity height of 6 to 7 feet. So it's a little misleading there, because a 2-inch caliber might not be 6 or 7 feet. It might have the potential for 6 or 7 feet, but not be when you plant it.
The spruce will grow to 60 or 70 feet. I mean, obviously that's not, they're going in 60 feet. But at install, they're going to be, not to do up to 10 to 12 feet,
Right.
we can certainly install that. That'll provide, screening immediately.
Okay. And then, so this other, my next comment is basic, it's just like my comment. Last meeting, when you guys presented, one of the comments Mr. McCory brought up was looking for an alternative location. Because I know all your students are here and they're gonna present how they want a turf field, and I agree, turf fields are wonderful. However, when you're not getting everything the college deserves by placing this here, you're inconveniencing your neighbors, and you're not getting your full-size track, you're not getting lights. There are other locations nearby that I would expect Dominican to research more, or at least try to pursue. I think it would be beneficial more for the college and your students.
I'll say one thing and then maybe I'll ask Alice to answer that if you want.
We're doing that now.
What's your name, sir?
Sorry. John Burke, B-O-R-K-E. Researching, that's what I do. I heard this the last time, and it's a very, no offense, a convenient retort, right? We have lived off campus. These ladies back here are traveling. Where's the indoor facility? Where's the facility practice? Waldwick, okay? 6 a.m. practices. I mean, I don't want to get into this, our horror stories. We're looking at everything. I heard about the psych center. I talked to OMM 10 years ago. It wasn't so they wanted us at Nye College, I'll be honest, to sit in a meeting. We met, Frank Payne sat down. His proposal was, help us build another field, and we'll give you some practice time, right? So Dominican was going to get practice time that we knew could not fit the schedules of our athletes. So I turned to the AD from NIAC, and he said the same thing, and we walked out. Appreciated the meeting and a lot of us. So we have looked at everything. We have teams going in bands. We have 9 bands. We've won 3 more this year, and still not enough, right? Traveling, we have multiple teams. Baseball team uses Boulder Stadium, or whatever they call the stadium now. They've changed their name. So we have looked at everything. Torn Valley has become a second home, and that's 25 minutes away. Lacrosse practices late January, early February. So we're putting kids on the road, like tonight, instead of walking from Hertel or Guzman Hall up on campus to their practice facility. I understand everyone's perspective on this. I appreciate you thinking. I assure you that we have looked at these, and that Waldwick, which I'm sure the ladies didn't like doing at 6 a.m., is costing us $200 an hour. plus getting 3 bands. Make sure they get there, and canceling anytime there's any weather that is a concern, their practice is canceled. So, I won't give you horror stories, but we have looked at it, so I appreciate your comment.
Well, if I could also answer that question, because if you look, we were before the planning board, I think it was in January 2021. We didn't come back until November. And a good part of that time was spent studying alternate locations, one of which was close to Western Highway. We tried to squeeze a field in, spent a lot of time and money on it, and it just didn't work. It was not going to be possible. The drop from Western Highway to the field was
About 40 feet.
40 feet.
So the earthwork would have been substantial, and it would have required about a 20-foot retaining wall right along Western Highway.
And we don't think the county would have gone for that. Basically, the road would have been, there would have been a hole in the ground next to it. We spent a lot of time doing that. We have spent a fair amount of time looking for alternate sites. And this field has existed there for more than 50 years at this point.
I appreciate clarifying, and
No, I know.
it's good for everyone to hear. Yeah, I didn't hear, I don't know all of the history of here, and I know you provided a site plan of showing kind of other locations. One side of Dominican College's property, not the other side, of showing kind of how you were squeezing it and why. It would have been helpful to see the other side too, but I believe you guys have done your diligence trying to find this and due diligence, and I think you did come back with a plan that has met some of our requirements and requests, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
We've
McCoy.
had this for a while.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we've been going through this journey for a little bit now. It's a better plan than when we started,
Yes.
you know,
Thank you.
but, I still see concerns for the neighbors. It's a tough location, I appreciate Mr. Burke and everything you've gone through, but look, it is a tough location. It's the only location in Dominican that borders 2 residents. Any place else, you might have one on one side of a road or something, but this has 2 residents on both sides, so that's why we try to mitigate the effect on the neighbors. And you help us out with the lights. I'm sure the students are wondering why everybody cares about trees so much up here. But it's really for the screening, to make sure these neighbors' lives or part of their life aren't affected, And it's still my contention that it will be an effect on their quality of life. That's my general comments. And we want successful businesses in town, but we want to meet that our job on the Chapter 21 of the Planning Board review is to look at how the project affects the neighbors and the neighborhood, not to make sure to have, we all want success, It's not our concern that the soccer team has a good recruitment class, and just to say that we have to look at the bigger picture, So with those comments, there's just a couple questions. Just the line of sight plan that's up there, while it's up there, I'll just mention, we were looking for something from the neighbor's view. I think they're giving us something from the upper level of the press box. And that was one of the conditions 9. Line of sight plan from Chestnut Oval and Carlton Road to the press box. See how it's looking like when the neighbors are in their backyard, we want to see what they're seeing, not what the guy in the press box is looking down at. And we don't have that here.
Well, it's the lower depiction on that.
Well, it's,
The lower picture shows a guy looking back towards the press box.
I'm gonna zoom in on it.
See all the way on the left
yeah,
hand side?
I see. Well, it's a cross view of it, not the view.
Not the actual view.
Yeah, not that. We're looking from what a neighbor would view from their backyard, not, an illustrated view of a 6-foot guy behind a fence. But that's one of the things we asked for that we didn't quite get. A berm on the west side. Are you saying that cut down slope, are you considering that a berm? Because our idea, I think at the time, the berm would raise everything up a little higher than what the grade or the area is. Was there a problem with raising that 4 feet, abandoning the trees?
So if we were to raise the grade up higher, we then have to come back down, it would require cutting down more trees. At this point, we have shrunk this as much as we could to minimize the tree removal.
All right. But you're still able to fit in trees on the west side there. And I agree with Mike Mandel's, you guys came out of here with preliminary approval for 80 replacement trees. And I understand they said it's almost impossible to do 80, but now we went from 80 to 9? That's not even close to.
It's not. it's not along the south side.
South, I'm talking about south side, I'm sorry, yeah.
That's what we talked about, that's right.
Yeah, the south side preliminary approval comment was approximately 80 replacement trees on the south side, because we're worried about that screening as well, because the limit of disturbance was right into the property lines for some of these houses. So then, rightly so, we're concerned about that screening, it's already mentioned, but when you go from 80 to giving us 9, it's not even close to what you guys have agreed to with the preliminary approval. So that's another concern of mine. And then the final concern, on a smaller scale, Bruce Peters, did you get his updated comments?
What were they dated?
March 4th.
Yes.
Just wanted to clear something up, just to make sure I'm on the right track here. We have a January 19th letter that gives us written responses to Bruce Peters' prior comments, saying that these comments were all met. And then March 4th, he gives us that the applicant still needs to comply with 9 comments. Was that ever cleared up?
Oh, it would be part of your final approval, yes, it's a condition.
But it was part of the preliminary condition.
We have responded to his prior comments. We believe we addressed them to our satisfaction. Unfortunately, he took offense to some of our, what we still have proposed.
Yeah.
We are prepared to address his remaining comments at this point.
Oh, yeah, because he said nine comments, which are part of the condition. Oh, sorry, although we're not met. So those are still outstanding?
Yeah, we believe we had addressed them, but they were not to his satisfaction, so we really need to revisit that with.
Yeah, we usually tend to go on his side, you know, so we.
Absolutely, we're not gonna get a building permit without getting a sign off from him.
So he still has 9 outstanding conditions. According to the preliminary approval, we still have a few more outstanding conditions. I want to met the trees and the line of sight drawings as well.
And the preliminary comments will be included and referred to in any final approval resolution, they have to be complied with.
I understand, just wonder why you came in with the final plan and still didn't comply with the other.
Well, yeah, I've been doing this for 35 years. There's always a little back and forth on this. We submit something, they look at it, they say, okay, but we want you to do this, this, and this, so it's a give and take. You know, we don't get a building permit until Mr. Peters has signed off on the site plan,
No, I understand, just I know it's.
with all of his conditions.
I like to have a final plan where things tied up nice and.
Believe me, I wish I did, but I've never had that happen.
Yeah.
I've never had it where I get a final approval resolution and a building permit the next day. Has that ever
No,
been done?
so the board's aware, so the board's aware, typically, when you give final with conditions, it can take anywhere from 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 months for them to go back and forth with both Bruce Peters and the consulting engineer. Because as they review, it's very complicated, the SWIP and all the site work, so as they review, it generates more comments,
Yeah.
and they'll make many revisions back and forth, and I cannot issue a building permit
So, I know, it's all the conditions.
until all the conditions are met, and if they cannot meet the conditions, they have to come back here.
I understand, that's why I just want to put on the record that there are still outstanding conditions for us to think of this as the final plan, in my opinion. But, those are my only comments I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Farley, anything?
You did mention the operating hours, dusk to dawn, right? Or dawn to dusk, excuse me. I watched the same. How busy is it now? Where, does anybody occupy that space now, or is it just kind of vacant?
The field
Yeah,
itself,
field.
it's being utilized, yeah. It's been used for like 50 years, it's been there.
Okay, so, how much more activity do we plan on seeing? You have track meet schedule, practices every day, or what's the, do we have a?
May I ask Mr. Burke?
Yes.
All right, so we haven't used the field for active practices for almost 18 months, I think. The field's unplayable, that's been discussed, and unfortunately, that's where we are. So all the teams, this fall, our soccer teams paid our money to the town, O&M,
Right.
we practice there 4 hours a week. And so the rules allow 6 practices a week, so you usually have 1 day off. Obviously, in season, teams will have a game or 2 games in a week, in soccer versus lacrosse. Usually hours of operation for practices, right now, we're using that 3 to 6 PM. Again, we are at the mercy of Torn Valley at this point, when they can give us the time. Unfortunately, we have kids missing it because of classes, but that's life in the big city. So, during the fall, it's soccer, 2 sports. They go from mid-August through first week of November, and 6 days a week. Obviously, half their games will be home, half the games will be on the road, so that's 9 home games, 9 away games. Men's and women's soccer usually have 3 doubleheaders, so it's really 15 dates of competition during the fall. The winter is late January, first week of February, all depending on weather and whether we can get on a field. Torn Valley doesn't plow their field, so we can wait a while. But that's 6 days a week. As you heard from me, we're all over the place right now to accommodate for the women's lacrosse. As you see, about 15 freshmen here. So they're welcome to the crazy world of Dominican athletics all over the tri-state area. And their season goes to first week of May. So they have about 14 games, half are home, half are away, and
So in the summertime, there's a lull then?
summertime, well, college, they're done, so what we're looking at in the summertime is camps or clinics, if we have them. We have a turf field that we can get our lacrosse programs. It's a good feeder for our lacrosse programs and soccer to have camps, but it would not be college athletes playing during the summertime. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I know there's a lot of talk about the berm and the fence and the trees, right? Have you considered changing the height of the fence, or instead of having the chain link fence, you know, a wood fence, or something that's gonna, I don't know, block the noise a little better, that might put the neighbors at rest?
It's not something we had considered at this point.
I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any other board members have any questions?
I just have one. Just looking at this on Google Earth, and the dormitory north of Hennessy. Could you tell me when that was constructed?
2006.
And you guys have been doing this field for how long? Trying to get this stadium and field in?
I know I've been on it for about 2 years. I think they were planning on it for before that. Yeah.
Mr. Burke, do you know?
About 4 years in real time as far as planning, as a concept, probably 10.
Did you ever consider that area where that dormitory is? Because let me tell you, doing a quick calculation on Google Earth, I don't know if you like to fool around with the dimensions and everything. The area that we're talking about now is about 435 feet long, and it's about 330 feet wide. The area over here where that dormitory is 813 feet long, and this is just a quick calculation off of Google Earth, and it's 400 feet wide. I don't understand why you could have put a stadium in there, right there where that dormitory is. And you could have probably moved your dormitory over across the street from the bar where that parking lot is. We would have had plenty of room for parking in that other area. Just food for thought. It's a little bit late now, but I don't know, I'm really upset because that could have been a beautiful stadium over there. You could have had grandstands, you could have had the lights, you could have had everything you wanted in that area. And it's pretty well flat. You got the railroad tracks on one side, you got Western Highway and all your property on the other side. I know it's late, but
You can't knock a building down to the state.
I understand, but I'm just, you know, I guess what I'm saying here is there wasn't enough thought put into this stadium. Just because the field was here for 50 years, okay, I don't think you really looked at it good enough. I mean, when you first came in to us, you wanted lights, you wanted everything. But that's neither here nor there. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else on the board? I'm gonna open it up to the public.
Motion to open public portion.
Mr.
I'll
Chairman,
second it.
everyone, if you're not at the microphone speaking, please do not speak. Because we cannot hear up here, the acoustics in this extremely old building are not very good. Okay, we have to record it. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chairman.
I'm gonna open up for the public to speak. Anybody who wishes to speak can speak, please. There's a lot of people here. I don't know if everybody wants to speak, but I'm gonna limit everybody to no more than 3 minutes. If the person in front of you has said your exact same feelings, please don't reiterate it. Just come up, state your name and address, and say, I have the same feelings as the person in front of me. Okay? Otherwise, as you can see, there's a lot of people here. We're gonna be here all night. Again, this board wants to hear everybody's opinion, and we'll do that. So, whomever would like to start, please come up. Again, you have 3 minutes. Okay, please come up, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mike McNamee.
1 minute.
Sorry.
Can we do a motion to open the public?
I open.
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay.
No, okay.
Motion to open, Andy second. All in favor?
Any opposed? None. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
what's your name, sir?
Mike McNamee, MC, N as in Nancy, A, M as in Mary, E. I live at 75 Chestnut Oval. I see this board basically trying to figure out how they can fit this stadium in that space. It was said at the last meeting that you're taking a size 12 shoe, or foot, and putting it in a size 8 shoe. All right? That's, in my opinion, one of the main things. If you talk about trees and this, that, and the other thing, the bottom line is that track's gonna be 50 feet from my property line. In other words, it's gonna be right on top of me. The other point is, did this board receive from Dominican any kind of cash flow statements, what they should expect in terms of revenue, what groups they're gonna rent them to? This field is gonna go basically from dawn to dusk, and it's gonna be used as a rental property for revenue for Dominican College. Everybody here knows that. And the last thing I'll leave you with, in terms of the field that's there right now, I've lived there for 25 years. Basically, Dominican has stopped maintaining that field. They used to be back there at least 3 times a week. In the winter, they put down a tarp to help the grass grow. They've abandoned it. They've abandoned their athletes. So you got to give this some consideration. You got 2 neighborhoods that are going to be dramatically affected by this rather large stadium. They change it. If you guys have been back there, you know what's going to change. You know exactly what's going to happen to Chestnut Oval and Carlton. It's as plain as day. 50 feet between the track and my backyard. No tree is going to help that.
Thank you, sir.
I need to move this.
Yes.
Can I hold
Yeah,
it?
of course.
Sorry. My name is Tina Adino,
Spell your last name.
Addino. I live at 87 Chestnut Oval. And I just want to start again by saying thank you to everybody up here for asking a lot of the hard questions that the neighbors keep having. But I wanted to make some things very clear to the planning board. As you know, some of the neighbors, we've been through this since you guys in the very first meetings, even prior to. I've attended all of the meetings. I went to the town board meeting, I went for the water course, and I went to the Avcor meeting. The town board, when they approved for the water course, they just pretty much gave a rubber stamp because you guys gave the preliminary. And it was very much like they had no idea what was going on. Avcor, we were there for about 25 minutes for the entire meeting. They literally rubber stamped. They did not ask a single question about any of the trees. They asked about other things. They didn't ask about the height of the press box, what it's going to look like. They didn't ask any of those questions that we expected them to ask. It was really shocking to us. We did not expect that. So I thank you for asking those, but that's really what happened. The line of sight, just even as you look at that, from my house, when you guys are asking about that, I can sit in my dining room, look out my back window, and I can see right now Rosary Hall. So that's beyond the scope of this project. And That's what I was hoping to see, like you guys were saying. I wanted someone to come to my backyard. Anyone is welcome to come. If you want to all walk in my backyard, please do and take a look. I am the one house that has the most trees coming down and very few getting back up. They said that they would be the berm and the 6-foot trees. I'm looking at these lovely gentlemen over here. They're at least 6 feet tall because I know what I am, right? So another foot higher than me is not going to be enough screening for us. I love these kids and I think that they are fabulous athletes and that they should have everything, but not on the respect of, our houses. 20 years, 25 years, we're living here and we've had them in our backyard and we think they're great and I find lacrosse balls all the time. But the problem is that this is going to be something we are going to see. And the dusk to dawn at Aquabor, when they talked about the sound, it didn't just say dusk, it said the PA system will be allowed to be used until a half hour after dusk. Well, in the summertime, that's 9 o'clock at night. I've got a little kid who's, that's his bedtime. He needs to go to sleep. We have lots of new neighbors with babies. The entire place is a baby boom over there. And I just want to say that I want you to just take all of that into consideration. It really makes me nervous to know that this is a final approval for something that we as the neighbors have worked so hard for to try to work together. But I thank you guys for really the voice of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is Noel Pierrette.
Oh, wait, here, you have to spell that.
I'm sorry, P-I-E,
Wait, I'm sorry.
P-I-E, R-R-E-T-T-E. Guzmanov
Is
in
that your
college.
first name or last name?
That's my last name.
Oh, what's your first name?
Lowell, L-O-W-E-L-L,
Thank
Lowell,
you.
Massachusetts. So, sorry, nervous, but to go back on what the last person before me spoke about dusk to dawn, about 9 o'clock, that's in the summer. If I'm correct, everybody's not going to be here. And as Dean Burke said, it's maybe going to be used for camps for other younger students coming up. So that's not good because we're not going to be here, we're not going to be loud. And as for noise and everything, we're not having games every day. We don't play music during practice like that. Like the negative doesn't really come out, doesn't really like outgrow the positive. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. State your name and address for the record, please.
Pat McNamee, 75 Chestnut Oval.
Yes, ma'am.
So like my neighbor said, I want to thank you all for supporting us and asking all these questions on our behalf. I first wanted to respond to Mr. Burke, who said the field hasn't been used in 18 months. The lacrosse team was back there tonight. They're back there all the time. If you notice the letter that I sent after the last board meeting, okay, the next day was Veterans Day. I'm a teacher, I was home in my office trying to do work when there was a soccer team, I believe, playing music extremely loud. I don't know if it was some kind of little message because all the kids were here the night before talking. If they were trying to get us to support them, they had a different effect. That same Saturday, my neighbor was out back. It was even louder. He videotaped it. He sent it to Cheryl. I don't know if you guys ever got it. It was, if this is what we're in for, it's even worse. And are they going to be able to use the PA system for their music? The trees that we're talking about, the sound barriers, it's not just line of sight. My house, that was my husband, we're 50 feet. Right now you can see through everything. Okay, if that PA system is going all day long, there will be no rest for anybody in our neighborhood. Nothing. Our whole quality of life is gone. With that being, the way it is. In a previous meeting, both Mr. Mandel and Mr. McRory and Mr. Dell, both asked questions about they're putting in a track. Why not replace what's there? The grass field with a turf field, no PA system. Why not that? Why does it have to be a stadium? Why all this stuff? 50 feet, taking all these trees down, everything. We've lived there. We know the practices, the games. When my son was younger, we brought him there. He went to soccer games, lacrosse games, basketball games, everything. And are there going to be restrictions on these rentals? They've said they've been approached by OMM, Manhattan Soccer Club. What are the restrictions going to be? So please think about this. This is really going to have a huge dramatic effect on all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can reply to some of those concerns. 3 minutes. PA system, 30 times a year, right? So if there's concern about PA system during the summertime, I will state here, in fact, we will not use a PA system in the summertime because the PA system is put in place for our home matches. So that is soccer, I mentioned this already, 15 gates of competition in the fall. And with lacrosse, they have a little smaller schedule, but say it's 15, right? So 15 is 30 times we're using. That's a 2-hour, less than 2-hour game. Music will be played in pregame from 45 minutes to an hour before, right? So that's 3 hours for each segment. So you can figure out the math of how many hours in a year you'll be using. Okay, that's first. With the screening, I won't speak for our experts here, but whatever needs to be done, I think we're open to it. I'm not the expert in it, but I know I sit on these meetings, and they think this is what is most doable. If you say, hey, we need way more, I don't know if 80 is the right number, whatever you say you think is prudent, I think we're flexible to that. So as far as the noise, the November 11th, I saw that note. It's after our soccer season. This is my concern. If nothing happens to that field, then those activities were going to happen, right? They're unscheduled. I'd rather have control. I'm a dean of students. I'd rather have some structure than unstructured. No offense to my 18 to 22-year-olds behind me, but unstructured means, the do's and don'ts sort of go out the window a little bit. If we have our practices there, I will stay here. And I know Joe Clinton has received phone calls and he responds immediately. If during a practice there is music being played, that is completely unacceptable. Completely. So we will make sure that does not happen. Kids on their own time going up there because it's the edge of our campus and they go throw the ball around on their own time, that's something we have to work on. Certainly respecting our neighbors. But that's something that's unstructured. When I talk about practice, it's a different, practice as a coach there with 30 people. What's happening with 12 soccer guys up there after the season's over? Can't control everything, but we certainly will try to do our best. But I'll say this again, it's the last time. I appreciate our neighbors' perspective. I really do. I respect all your questions you're asking of us. We're trying to figure out a way to do this the best way. I will just say we need this. It's not an extra. It's not something, talking about almost 200 athletes, name it, at the end of the day, right? The number of people in our Guzman Hall. In 2006, I wasn't part of that plan. I got this job, I got ready after that, thankfully. I was in the athletic department, but not in my current role. So we will work our best. As far as rentals, the last thing, the rentals. I hear you. Rentals is the big comment, right? Rentals were a big part of the plan with lights. I have to replace this carpet in 10 years. So I want to put some money away, so when we have to replace it in 10 years, I'm not going to the capital expense, and we're using it. So for rentals without lights, it's limited. I know people aren't going to believe me. It's limited. Just told you, 4 teams are practicing on a regular basis. Track and field is practicing there in the fall and the spring. I might have 8 hours. If you said 6 p.m., somebody mentioned 6 p.m. with rentals, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I don't think there's a lot of it, so I'm comfortable. I'm sure somebody's going to kick me and saying, why are you giving us this? But I just want to find an agreement to understand this is not about us trying to make $1 million. It's not going to happen. But we do rent our gym out. I know you look at your clock. Sorry about this. All right? buddy balls there on Sunday mornings.
Shoes for everybody else.
I hear you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it's technically the applicant.
No, I don't wanna, I'm not hiding the time. We have buddy ball in our gym on Sundays. I don't want restrictions that if buddy ball, I know they use OM, but if they wanted to use our soccer field to do that's what we do. So we do that on Sundays. Town of Orangetown came about pickleball, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings in our back gym, open, so we made it happen, right? So we want to be flexible to be allowed to do that. That's it. But thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Josie Lettieri.
Just spell your last name.
Yeah, Lettieiri.
Right, thanks.
Okay, so I'm on the women's lacrosse team. I'm a freshman, and we've had, I think, like three games so far.
Yeah.
We had our fourth game today. It was supposed to be our home opener. Couldn't go. Snow wasn't really that bad, and we were versing Southern Connecticut, so it's kind of a far drive for them. But like the fact that we couldn't even go there because our coach doesn't want to put us in danger of having to drive to a home game, where we should be able to go in our locker room, get excited, walk onto our field, and be able to play. A few guys on the lacrosse team, they were out there today. It was because our practice field that we have to drive 25 minutes to every day on the icy roads was frozen over. So the place that we're supposed to practice at, because we can't practice on the field, was like frozen. We couldn't play on it today. And then our game got canceled and we couldn't have practice because the guys were on the grass field. And I think that if we had practice every day out on the grass field, it wouldn't be, like, correct me if I'm wrong, and I respect all of your opinions, of course, but it would kind of be the same as if we were just playing on the turf field. It would just be on a turf field. We would still be playing every day. If we could go out there, we 100% would be on that grass field. It's such a pain for all of us to have to drive there. The other day, my roommate and I, Leah, we had 6 a.m. practice, 35 minutes away, and the way to get to the indoor field is only like back roads and weird one-way streets, and we're from Long Island, we're not from here, we're not used to these type of roads, like, roads are a lot more narrow here, and we're going down a side road, and we're sliding on ice, so our car slides. As we're sliding, a deer runs right in front of us. So it's like really dangerous, like to have to be driving there all the time, and I was scared. We actually started crying. But yeah, I just feel like putting so many like of our lives in danger, like being dramatic. But the fact that that actually happened, I actually witnessed it. I was like, wow. If like she didn't slam on her brakes, we literally would have gotten so hurt on our way to a 6 a.m. practice, where it could just be so much easier to just walk out of our dorm to our field. So that's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. State your name and address for the record, please.
Severio, Saverio, Adino, Addino, reside at 87 Chestnut Oval. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board, for seeing us. We talk about rentals. I believe there's an R40 zone which prohibits commercial operations. I think once you rent it out, it becomes a commercial operation. Am I correct by saying that? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
All the colleges have always rented.
Yeah, I know.
Right, but this particular property in this area, their building is an R40 zone.
You can't address me, sir, you have to address the chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
As for whether the rentals are allowed, I really don't know. I think the town attorney would have to qualify that. I'm not sure.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's been done that way.
Yeah, I mean, all these colleges throughout the area, they do rent their fields.
I know, but if you read what entails an R40 zone, I think it prohibits a commercial operation. Once you rent it out, then it becomes a commercial operation, I believe. So if that can be looked into, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Also, the grandstands, I believe on top of the grandstands are going to be cameras videotaping the games.
Not that that's the first time I've heard of that.
It was mentioned at the ACOA meeting.
There's going to be a speaker on top of the press box.
Right, but I also believe there's going to be access for people who are on top of the press box with cameras. as a homeowner, having cameras shooting into my property is pretty uncomfortable for me.
Stop, just so that we have the applicant. You don't have cameras on the,
We videotape, we're mandated by our conference to videotape, I know it's definitely for lacrosse, I'm not sure if it's mandated for soccer, to tape all home games so that we can give it to the next opponent and they share, it's a typical college exchange of taping.
Look, in
But it'd be on the-
respect to privacy, I know there's gonna be enough screening around that cameras are not gonna look in your windows, if that's what your concern is.
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And our bedrooms, because our bedrooms are facing the fields as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And looking at the side of mine, it seems like the tippy top where the cameras will be are above the sight line of sight and where the trees are, if you want to go back to it.
Like I said, this is the first time I heard anything pertaining to cameras, so I don't know what the answer is, and I think the applicant is kind of concerned about that too. I don't know if he knows the answer or not, I don't know.
All right,
But I
so
think Mr. Beck said that Burke says that they're required to film some of their games, and I believe they're gonna be filming the games, and I really, really, really don't believe that they're gonna become a beat Tom.
it's just a concern as a homeowner, just throwing it out there. Also, the field, I believe, is being dropped.
Correct.
So how does that work with the current drainage? So if you're dropping a field, you're dropping the level of the drainage. Will that overflow now because you're dropping the grade of that?
One of our consultants is a drainage expert, Booker Engineering, and they have looked at the proposed drainage plans that they have drawn for this, and they have approved the plans, so that there will be no issues with respect to drainage.
Now, the field has drainage. Will the field be draining into this or a separate drainage?
I believe it will be draining into that retention basin, which is a stream that runs through the property.
And as a contributory to Sparkville Creek? This.
Does it wind up in this Sparkville Creek? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can respond.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's probably best to take notes and respond all at once at the end.
Okay.
We're gonna be here till 2 a.m. this
Right.
Okay.
That's fine. And also the scoreboard is like a big billboard in people's backyards as well. I don't know if everybody noticed this thing too. That's another concern, I believe, of Pat's, of our neighbors. And I also have the same concerns in all our other neighbors that was mentioned. So, thank you for my comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I get a little bit of clarification? Hold up just a second, Ms. Beck, in respect to the cameras, number one, and to the drainage, just so we can kind of answer those gentlemen's questions.
I'll speak to the, could you put that other thing up so that they can see trees that will be between the field and the houses? It's gonna be a little hard to shoot film between the trees.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that this young lady was mentioning.
They had asked me as a TV person to talk about cameras.
Okay, just for a minute, please, just one step at a time. Sir, this is gonna be basically the view from the press box.
The top of the press box? Or is this like field level?
I think if I'm not mistaken, this is maybe 2 or 3 feet below the top of the press box.
The filming of these sport activities, if you watch the NFL and the rest of it, they're filming the field. If they're filming over to the apartments or house on the other side, you're not gonna see the play on the field. And that's what's required, because if they just show the trees and the houses, their league is not gonna accept that film. That film has to show the actual activity going on. If they spread it out to a point where you see everything, you couldn't tell what the players and who the players were actually doing. So if you watch the NFL, you watch any of the soccer things, I think that'll give you an idea of exactly how they film. Am I correct, sir? That's how it's filmed. Okay? All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Before everybody else asks. They are the changes. Okay. There you go.
So, I think there was a question about, if we're
Drainage
cutting
and
the
field.
field. Yeah, so, although we are cutting the field down in this area, there's a bit of a fill on the other side. The existing field is not perfectly level. So we'll be leveling it out, so there's a bit of cut and fill balance. So the side closest to Chestnut Oval is a little higher right now, so we are cutting it down and dropping it lower than it is now. The proposed drainage system is what you see a footprint in blue on the east and west sides of the fields. So under the field, there is a series of perforated pipes that collects the stormwater runoff and sends it into these chambers. This is a cross-section view of what they look like. They're about 3 feet tall, kind of a semicircular shape, and they contain the runoff from a 100-year storm event. Anything in excess of that overflows into the watercourse southeast of the field, which does go through a stormwater detention pond on the campus, which also has a subsequent overflow into Spark Hill Creek. We have been to the Rockland County Drainage Agency. They've identified that it is not it's not in their jurisdiction, but because the watercourse is tributary to Spark Hill Creek, that triggers the need to get a DEC permit. We're with them now. We've gotten a series of comments back from them from the initial submission, more or less clarifications. They did not object to the actual concept of the field and the drainage system.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, young lady, you're up.
Hello, Jordana Tomasetti. Jordana Tomasetti.
Could you spell your last name?
Tomasetti.
Thank you.
I just want to start by saying thank you for allowing us to speak in front of you today. I respect all the points that have been brought up, and I understand the concerns from our neighbors. However, I would just like to add that this field would be hugely beneficial to us. We would not have to travel far for practice, which we've had to drive in the early morning hours for and play lacrosse. We had 6 a.m. practice a couple weeks ago, had to leave at 5:30. We don't have that many cars between the whole team. We all carpool. I have a car with 4 other girls in it. When I had to drive at 5:30 a.m., I woke up at 4:15 because I was nervous I was going to be too tired, and I had all these lives in my hands, and it made me nervous, so just wanted to share that because driving that early is not fun and it's scary. We would love the opportunity to have a field on our campus that is safe and playable. You know, our field right now isn't in the best conditions. And we just want our fellow students to be able to come out to our games, even the communities. We would love the neighbors to be able to come watch us play. It's really important to just have our fans there to support us. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Let me just say something, stop everybody just for a second. You're going to be allowed to speak. The last 2 ladies that spoke basically said the same thing. So if we can, we're trying to save time. If everybody wants to speak, fine, you can, please. Again, come up, state your name and your address. And if you agree with the person who just spoke before you, just say it. I agree with that person in front of me. I mean, we understand, we want everybody to speak. So please keep that in mind. Let's not be repetitious, okay? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Armani Abreu.
Could you spell your last name?
A-B-R-E-U. A-B-R-E-U. I'm a senior on the track team, so no one has spoke about track yet, but I did hear a concern about us having track meets. The track is not going to be NCAA approved, so we will not be having track meets on that track. That track is honestly for us to have somewhere to call our home. We go to parking lots, we have to jump over fences and try different tracks, and it's not fair to us that we can't be able to play our sport because other high schools don't want us to be on the same track as them. We're a college, not a club or a high school. And also, I just want you guys to know that I live in the suburbs. I do know what it's like to be in a community. I know like that community affair, like everybody loves to be together, but we're not going to be a negative impact in your community. We're not here to bring negligence to your community. We're here to be a positive impact and grow our program. The track program is very small right now because what do we have to offer? We can't really offer anybody anything because we don't have a track. We're not here to make crazy noise or make your community negative. We're literally here just to show and grow and like show diversity in this community. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, and also I don't mean to offend anybody, but why move into a community behind a college when you know there's going to be noise coming from a college?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Lawrence Ribeiro. R-I-B-boy, E-R-I-B as in boy, E-I-R-O.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you guys for letting us speak, and I'd like to thank Mr. Mandel for talking about the the cameras, I agree with him, or we're not gonna record other people's houses. And we're all 18 to 22. We're not gonna all be looking in these neighbors' houses, seeing what they're doing. That's not what we're there for. We're gonna be there practicing, running, whatever we're doing on that field. We're not gonna spend our time on the bleachers or on top of the press box looking into other people's homes. That's not why we're there. We're there to train. I'm a commuter. I live 45 minutes away. To have to drive here and then find a field 20, 30 minutes away from here, which is deeper south from me. I'm up north. It's a lot of gas, and gas prices are high right now. So it's kind of embarrassing to come here and then not have somewhere to practice. And my other teammates and other sports as well, soccer, lacrosse, they have to find other places to practice. And last minute, like they said, where they're not available, and that we have to pay for the fields to practice at. It's just unfair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, hold on just a second. Yes, sir.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Yes.
I'm interested in hearing what the neighbors have to say. I know what the students are going to say. I think everybody on this board knows what they're going to say. And I think, I just would like to see if there are any other neighbors who want to speak. And could we have them now, just so we can get their comments and respond?
Being this gentleman's here?
Yes.
Let him do it, and then we'll ask to see if any of the other neighbors, and then we'll go back to the
Just a
students.
suggestion.
Yes, thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, I'll try to be quick. My name is Gilbert Gerard.
Yeah, you got it.
Joubert. That's the first name. You know the last name? Derival. VAL.
Thank you.
So I think I have a point that no one has brought up yet. So we've looked at this as something that's going to benefit the college, and of course it is. I do think it does benefit the community also as a whole. And I as a coach, I'm the assistant coach for track. We are trying to recruit, we're doing our best to recruit, and without having a track, that limits the pool of athletes that we can that we recruit, because there's some athletes that just won't come to college without a track. And when we don't have a track, it lowers, like, when we're in that situation, right? It puts us in a place where we have to then consider athletes who maybe don't reach the standards that we want to, because we don't have as many players to choose from. And I think it affects the community, because we have to lower our standards instead of keeping them high where we want them to be. And these are not just students that are in our school, they're also students that are going to be working in your community. They're going to be students that are maybe doing your DoorDash orders, they're going to be interning in your schools. These students are not just, the track benefits our school, but it also benefits the community, because we then bring in higher quality student athletes that are going to not just affect our college, but they are going to be living in your community and possibly moving into your community. They're going to be driving through your neighborhoods where your kids are. So we want to bring in those A+ students who are, doing their homework and positively involved in the community, and not, the kid who barely met the minimum for athletic participation, who's going to be, doing God knows what in the community. So I do think it's something that is going to highly improve our community. It may not be a direct effect, but it will have ripple effects into the community as a whole. So I just want to say that.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, sir. Hold on just a second. Okay. I want to ask any of the neighbors if they have any more concern before.
Tap the screen.
Somebody hit the screen. Mr. Burke, go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't do that.
It wants to go to sleep, I don't know.
I know that the students have a lot to say, and I want to hear them, but do any of the other neighbors have anything else to say? The applicant would like to, also hear from you, because you have more direct connection to this application. Anyone else, neighbors? No? Okay. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Maruf Barry.
Barry?
M-A-R-O-U-F. Last name Barry.
What's your first name?
Maruf, M-A-R-O-U-F.
And Barry.
B-A-R-R-Y.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to start off with saying I'm from the Bronx, the city. I live in an apartment, so I know it's different from a house, but I grew up hearing, cookouts right in front of my window throughout the whole summer, even sometimes before. And as I'm doing things in my house, like, that kind of zones out and you don't fully focus on that noise you hear outside. And I'm not trying to downplay the area over here, because I know it's real quiet over here, so it's nothing compared to the city. So y'all used to just it being real quiet, so you hear, oh, a soccer field near my house. Oh no, I don't want that. But imagine music being blasted 100% compared to just student athletes kicking a soccer ball, throwing the I don't know how you call that ball. like that doesn't make a lot of noise. So like people they said there's teachers here. There's probably teachers are at school finishes around 4 2. Us as a soccer team, we start practice from 2 to 4, from 3 o'clock to 4:30, an hour, and then lacrosse probably had like 2 hours and whatever. So it's like imagine just hearing music all night from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. compared to just, hearing, like, you're not even going to hear a soccer ball game being kicked or somebody throwing a lacrosse ball and people running across, like, running around the track. So I just feel like, and also imagine just, like, you're not doing anything at your home and you got kids that is interested in sports and they want to come out and watch a college sport practice or even play. You don't know if they want to grow up to be a lacrosse player and want to watch D2 athletes play or watch soccer players play, so it's probably, I don't see no downplay other than y'all talking about the noise and stuff, and I'm not trying to say, of course, everybody want a peaceful home, but practice is being 2 hours at most. I feel as if won't really affect your daily life, and I may be wrong, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but, I'm just saying, like, which everybody else said here, and I'm not going to repeat it again, but like it's more positives and it's really something that we need and it's something that we've been looking for 4 to 5 years now. Yeah, that's all I really have to say.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Adam Wen.
Spell your last name.
Lenn.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to mention that this track would honestly be good for the neighborhoods around it. I know someone previously said that there's a lot of kids growing up and there's a lot of babies. So if this track and field is there, as these kids grow up, that's an extra place that they can go to where they can throw a football, they can run, they can be with their friends. It's a nice field. The kids can be there. It's close to home. So parents don't really have to worry and stress that much about the younger kids being there. But honestly, I don't see how this won't positively influence the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Burbridge. I work in the athletic department. Last name is yes, B-U-R-B-R-I-D-G-E.
And what was your first name?
Joseph. I just want to give you a little different perspective because I'm in the athletic department, so I'm in the front line of this a lot of times. So, who you're dealing with in terms of who this benefits is the best of our group of students in the entire college. These are the ones who are graduating at the highest rate. Their GPAs are the highest. So sometimes I've been sitting here listening. This is the first time I've heard some of this. I don't think we have a proper understanding of exactly who's going to benefit from this. It's not rentals as a primary thing. It's obviously something that's going to be a part of it, but it's really to benefit their safety of the best of our best. I mean, I'm sure any of the neighbors would like to better their property. We're just trying to put something better for ourselves and for our kids. That's all we're trying to do. We're not. That's our primary motive, is what it is. And as a neighbor, because we're a neighbor longer than anybody, 70 years in this neighborhood, we're just trying to make ourselves better as anybody would. And putting a hot tub in the backyard, putting a pool in the backyard, putting those little speakers with the rocks, in your backyard. Nobody would tell you not to do that. Why wouldn't you do that? It's your neighborhood. You want to make it better. I'm telling you who is going to be up there, and it is the best of the best. I can also speak, and I will speak for Joe Clinton and John Burr. None of us will put up with any nonsense music, anything that's offensive or anything else. That will cease. Believe me, the music you'll be hearing your kids can go in the backyard and listen to it and have a little concert, because it will not be something that will be offensive, I promise you that. Just understand, at the end of the day, we all want what's best for these kids, and I'm telling you that I know it's repeating myself, but they're the best of the best. They're our best kids. These are the ones you want to be in your neighborhood, I promise you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Joseph Clinton, CLINTON, 246 Manor Boulevard, Pearl River, New York. Since he said he was going to speak for me, I figured I'd just say, I've been doing this a long time. I'm 61 years old. I've been at Dominican 33 years, okay? And I've worked with the community. I know people here that I see here. I run camps, I run summer leagues, whatever it is. But I know the McAlees, I know the McCloskeys. And just to let you know, the other day, there was some loud music. I got a text from one of the neighbors. I got one on it, within 5 minutes it was done. Okay, I'm here to work with the community. I'm here. If they ever need any help, they can call me, they can text me. I know Kenny, I know Jimmy the Wojcik, I know all people. I will be there for you if there's any problem, okay? And you know I will be there, okay? I just want to let you know that, because I am, I'm a Rockland County guy for 61 years. Born in the Bronx, 2 days later I was up here.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else?
Motion to close public portion.
I'll second. Close public, do I have a second? Mr. Andrews, second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. We have a lot of concerns. As you know, as the neighbors do, I think one of the biggest things which Mr. Mandel brought out was the screening in that one area where
On the south side.
yes.
On the south side.
Yes.
Like Carlton. Nobody was here from
Second
Carlton this
spot
evening to
too,
speak
because
about
it
it.
was brought up by one of the community residents, which I'll mention to you, which was over, we have between the west side, we have 35 White Oaks, and the south side, we have the 9 Oaks. There's an area there that you should add some screening, except for the screen, the neighbors there complain about the site. That would be,
Could we just, again, look at the trees that are remaining in that area? And because Akabor did ask us, why are there no trees here? And because the existing trees are going to be staying exactly the same way.
yeah.
Um,
So we go over it in Akabor and Pix, it's not the, no, it's not the.
I think there's a big gap in there. that I
You see
think
the
we want
gap
to
right
fill in.
there?
Talk about here.
No, no, yeah, I talked about originally there, up there.
on the bottom.
No, back there, it's that area there.
You're looking for some additional screening
Yes.
in here.
And those trees that are depicted there are remaining, right?
But if you look behind the trees towards the property line, you see a large area that's empty.
Right.
That could be filled in.
In the lower right-hand corner?
Correct.
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
We could add some trees there.
Can you advance it to the aerial view? Sorry.
Because
Which one do you want?
I think we understand the neighbors' concerns. I know you guys understand the neighbors' concerns because you've done this many times. And we're trying to accommodate you, and we also try to accommodate the neighbors and get whatever we can to make everybody happy. Look,
I understand.
not everybody's gonna be 100% happy.
Nobody ever is.
Nobody ever is. But we're trying to do the best we can for the neighbors. Because they're the ones that have to live with this, and we want to do the right thing for them.
I mean, I'm looking here, obviously it's a little hard to see, I mean, it looks fairly,
And I would draw your attention to where the property line is over by Carlton, how far those people are from.
I mean, that's the fence line.
Yeah.
We're coming to about here also.
They were talking about the southwest corner.
Yeah,
That's it right there.
Yes, and that's where, if you take a look at the trees on their planting and what's being removed, it looks like a fairly blank area, looking at the diagram which is submitted here, which would be.
See that area where the snow is? That's what kind of what we're talking about.
Well, this here, the new track is going to extend
Yes.
into here. So this is not an area that we'd be able to
So
replant.
you're talking about that.
It looks like it might be in this corner, and I
Right. Yeah, if you look at the landscape plan, C 4.0, and you take a look at the southwest corner, you can see there's the area between where you're planting 35 white pines and the area where you're planting the 9 white pines on the south side. You take a look at that.
in this area.
Right.
This is covered in here by the canopy, and you can add a couple of trees there. We talked about this corner, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 trees in this corner. That's why we didn't connect the two buffer zones together. So this line of trees is old growth tree. And it's top. Maybe we can fill in something here. Depends on how much of a gap we have. Sure. In terms of the flip side, on the other side of the culvert, we can put a couple of trees, but in and around the actual culvert itself, it's lower level. We have a photo of that. There, I mean, you have, these are the trees that you're removing in that stream area.
Yeah.
So they're more scrub trees than.
Well, that's why we're asking for additional plantings.
We can certainly add additional trees along the bank, I guess, on the west side. But I don't, they're, just where the culvert is, there's always gonna be a, and we kept some of the trees by the actual culvert itself. There's about 4 trees on either, 2 on either side of the culvert that exists.
Still need a little bit more there if we do screening along that side. It looks like it's
Certainly add a couple of trees
more
in
than,
that area. Sure.
a little bit more than a couple in that area and also in the other area we're talking about, southwest corner. And then the area which would be south of the culvert.
Up to you.
Yeah, we'll have, I suspect that,
Yeah.
we can investigate that. So just, when we did the tree survey, obviously we can't go and find every tree at 1-inch caliber and above. Offhand, I don't know exactly what's in that area. If it's a matter of taking down some, 1, 2-inch caliber trees to put in some larger stuff, is that something you would be looking for?
Yeah, they provide screening because you're talking about trees all winter long. They have no, have any vegetation on it till maybe April at the earliest. You don't see any vegetation on it, and then fall comes, it's off. So that would be an area, to accommodate some of the residents that spoke tonight. That one corner I'm talking about, that southwest corner is based upon what the residents spoke about tonight. It's not being screened over there.
I'll say we can investigate that. I'm not gonna just say we'll definitely plant some trees there. It depends on what's there.
Yeah.
Something we can.
We're trying to get year-round screening, not just during the summer when you have the hardwoods roll.
That's why we asked for 10 to 12.
Double one spruce there.
We'll investigate looking at that. I mean, unfortunately, you do have some deciduous trees here, a lot of deciduous trees. And, there's a lot of ground cover and some vines that do grow up canopy, grow up the trunks. But yes, that does unfortunately disappear in the winter months. If you're looking for year-round screening, evergreens would certainly be a choice, but that would come at the cost of removing the deciduous trees.
I think there's a little bit of a trade-off there, and I think that
I think you can, Amazon was able to put in a number of trees in blank spots along their fence line, so that they provide more screening to the neighbors on the other side of the retention pond. That was one of the places. We looked at it in different projects that have been built, and they've given more area that's not going to be disturbed, or they've added more. And Mr. Quinn can tell you on some of the projects where they've added quite a few more trees they did over at the JP Morgan Chase. They had quite a few trees there along with the.
Amazon and JP have unlimited budgets.
Most of the concerns that I heard about was the area of the press box versus facing directly to Chestnut Oval. Is there any way that you could raise that berm on that side, the west side, to the way it looks now, it's gonna be like 5 foot. Do you raise it another 5 foot and then put in your 10-foot trees?
So we would be cutting down, we'd have to cut down the vegetation between there and the property line and then replant it. So we'd be cutting down mature trees to put in.
But along where you're putting all those new trees, you can't raise that
So we,
3, 4, 5 feet in there, and then put your trees in?
no, as it is, we have a very, we have about a 1-on-2 slope from the track up to that existing grade. So we brought the excavation in as much as we possibly could to minimize the tree clearing. Any further earthwork in that area would warrant removal of mature trees.
Well, not looking at removing any earth to bring it up, I'm looking at adding, if you put that, yeah.
Look here. So we have, this is the area we're cutting.
Don't touch it.
So this is the area we're cutting down slightly in this area. And we slope this up as steeply as we can. So if we were to raise this up further, we'd have to come back to grade, which would mean removing some of the mature trees in this area.
We don't want it that. And you don't want to make that slope any steeper than it is. Correct. What size trees you looking at putting in there?
These would be the spruce.
They said we can put that 12 foot trees in there? 12. 12. I'd like to see some, green giant. I mean, has anybody ever taken a ride down Singletown Road? And there's a house on the corner where Town Line Road comes in. Those are green giant arborvitaes on that corner. And let me tell you something, that is screaming. You can't see that house. And those trees are probably 30 feet tall. That's the kind of tree I'd like to see along that whole side, just about. I mean, the spruce are good, they'll grow 2 to 3 feet to 60 feet, but you can fill in with the green giant arborvitae, and that'll add soundproofing, because they're so heavy and thick. That's what I'd like to see along there.
Those grow like 3 feet a year.
Yes, 3 feet to 30 feet.
Yeah,
And they have a 25-foot spread at the base.
There'd be something on the south side, fill in those areas there, because you don't have to put as many trees to get these screening that you would need.
Right now, the plan calls for double line spruces. Do you want to replace one of those lines of spruces with
You can scatter them over green, green giant. You don't want to plant them too close together, because they'll die.
Right.
Because of the spread, and we don't want to be replacing, trees after 2 or 3 years.
But I just want to ask our landscape architect, we see an issue with that.
We'll take a look at it, just to be able to get, like I said, the spread right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You can't plant them,
Warren.
you can't plant them 10 feet apart. Not when it's going to grow 25 feet.
Right, so another question would be, do you want
But,
to
I mean,
screen, or, because that'll take time.
the spread on the spruce is the same as the arborvitae.
The spruce is a little wider.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could sprinkle in between the spruce and the arborvitae. And that'll give you a good screening.
Jim, quick comment?
Yeah, sure.
Just something that's kind of sticking out real quick, that Mr. Adino pointed out, the scoreboard. Even if nobody's running, no one's playing, that scoreboard is still 55 feet from a few of the property lines. I understand why it's not positioned, because it's directly across from spectators, but we've gone to fields where it's off-center, or any option of moving that to a different location, maybe to the north side, away from the residence, where the spectators are still seeing the score, but it's not 55 feet from the neighbor's backyard. And all the sight line, you can tell, like, the fence, the tree, it stands out. That's 20 feet tall, maybe, from grade. If I was doing my, so it just seems like it's something that has been addressed, and it's something that I think
would ease some of the problems with looking at your backyard and seeing a huge scoreboard there. Whether there's a game or not, at least if there's no games or anything going on, the kids are gone, nice and quiet, but I think that scoreboard still has an effect on a few of the neighbors.
You're not gonna see any lights or anything, it's just you're gonna see the back of
Yeah,
it.
you can see the back of a huge
Right.
scoreboard, yeah. Just saying, is there an option where it's less effective on the neighbors? Like, is there an option to move to the north side of that track?
We ran into this with another college, and we had to paint back up in black, and it basically made it disappear.
Kind of screened in with the, I'm just seeing how high it was above, but, yeah, it should be 20 feet.
22 max.
20 feet tall.
It's on CN 7, 25 max, it said. Or 22 max.
If you take a look at Tappan Zee High School scoreboard on their football field, it's off to the side, it's like on the corner. I mean, you might be able to put it over here.
I look at it. No, I just want to see exactly where that location is, but.
We'll probably lower the board, probably about another 2 feet lower. We tried to get the board so no one's gonna hit their, going underneath it, so we can raise it up a little bit higher. We can certainly lower it, maybe down another 2 more feet. If we can put it towards the north.
Because that order, in the bottom left,
Northwest.
which in that area, you still have 95 house.
You could put it in the northwestern corner
Yeah,
here.
they're handy, but,
No, that's the northwest. It was Kansas.
Yeah, the northwest.
Yes.
people understand, see,
This is scoreboard here.
We've done it all on the whole bottom location. We can. I think it's,
As long as there's a sight line for the teams and the spectators.
it's just off to the end zone of the field. So we'll go back into the field. And then the flagpole is with.
That's an issue with, you have to look to see, you'd be looking in the sun.
I'm not saying it's gonna be bad, I just wanna see if that's an option. It might even be a worse plan, because now I'm like facing some of the other neighbors.
Hey, you want,
You know, it's just trying to
Yeah,
juggle a few things.
that is true. We'll move, but that is an area where it has, we were stopping the screening at that point because we figured the existing tree line would take over and the grading was not.
It's like you were
being correct.
screening for the scoreboard.
We're screening for the scoreboard and screening for where we were cutting into the existing. So that was our, where we were affecting it, that's where we're limiting the screening.
so I said it would
If
be
we
right in
move
the
it,
sun.
yes, it's gonna be more out.
Put it on the west side, you're looking right into the sun. If you put it on the west side where it is now, and you're gonna be practicing at night, you're gonna be right in the sun. That's where the sun sets.
Tell us what you want.
I understand.
No, it's just something like that wasn't
It could certainly move.
But if it makes it worse, it just, I'm not saying.
I think
And
by
we could try to
moving
write
it,
it with-
I think we'll make it worse. I think if we leave it right in the middle where it is and paint the back of it black, because I've talked to landscape architects and everybody else, and they said black color makes things disappear. So you're gonna see an outline, but I think it's gonna kind of disappear.
I'll just address one of the neighbors.
I personally, I think it should stay right where it is.
It's the back of the dark too.
Anybody else?
So I have one question, I never thought about it before. What is the standoff from where the track is to the tree? And you're talking about how the spread is, and where, like, what are these, when they grow, their roots grow, what is the impact on the curve eventually gonna be? How, are you really gonna be able to fit this here? Because now you have these pine trees that are gonna be growing 25 feet wide, and now they're 5 feet from a track. Right? I don't know, there's just like a,
They're on a slope.
That's a white oak. What you're talking about.
the spread of the tree to the edge of the track. Do you know what that is? I think is what she's
The
asking.
drip line. The drip line, so the bottom row towards the track is gonna grow out onto the track, so that's gonna have to be pulled back probably. Yes, right.
And then like the root system eventually too is gonna grow the same as the drip line, right? That's why you have the drip line. I'm trying to understand tree a little bit here. But it's gonna be kind of growing underneath the track unless you set it back far enough that it's not gonna destroy your track eventually. Just like the same thing you do on sidewalks. Like if you put a tree in a sidewalk, it destroys the sidewalk in a few years.
Depends on the root system, if they're going down versus spreading out, which typically.
So what do
down.
what do the spruces do, roots? I don't know.
With the spruce, they're on a slope, so that they're higher up in the track. We shouldn't go underneath the track if the track is lower.
Okay.
Anyone else?
They're not maple, but the roots grow on top of it.
Yeah, we're not flood plants.
Anybody else on board? You have some questions about the number of trees? Yeah, like, that's what my thing is my problem is I'd like to see the landscape plan, the additional trees put in. I don't have really nice feedback. I think everything else that we talked about is pretty much agreed to, but might as well just hold the board that they want to go which way. Unless we get a number, how many you're gonna set in there.
I think the trees can be put here. I don't think 80 is gonna fit.
No, there's not.
The preliminary said approximately 80 also, and I think it was based on the number of trees that were being removed.
Yes.
I mean, we could easily put, giant arborvitae's, spruce over there if you like.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a good screening,
Tree for the southwest corner,
Yeah.
be ready. How many would you put in there?
How many do you want?
Well, you don't wanna pack them together when they.
No, where they're gonna die.
75, no. How many can you put in there reasonably without, killing them and providing screening for people?
What, we got another 10 to 20 trees over there maybe?
I mean, based on what I'm looking at here, based on the tree survey, there seems to be a lot of space. However, it all depends. I don't know how many trees of 1, 2, and 3 inch caliber in there. We may have to remove several of those or many of those to infill. So we're certainly open to putting more trees there.
Right.
I just want to let you know that if we may have to remove some existing vegetation to put them in.
The smaller stuff, yes.
Small stuff,
yes.
Because it looks like a lot of them are larger in that corner.
I'm looking at the corner and I see a large area here.
Yeah, what's the size of this?
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't tell from, looking at it exactly.
These are large calibers, aren't they?
Some in the corner here,
It's the right by the property line.
some here, some there, but this is all still larger growth in here. There's a couple in here maybe. That's what I was saying before, is that where the stream comes in here, we can certainly add some additional in the infill, but it's not gonna be a great amount. We can certainly get the larger arborvitae that can spread, but we're also concerned that, okay, we put
Can you get 15
those
trees
other
there?
trees in there, and then the deciduous trees die. So
Can
they'll
you get 15 trees in there?
try.
Yes,
We'll find them.
We're talking about the corner, we're talking about the south side of the culvert, going down to the end of the field, really. That whole loop.
Yes.
What are you putting?
Spruce and giant arborvitae's?
In giant, yeah.
50-50? Half spruce, half.
Okay, can you guys repeat that so we can hear that down this end? We did
Yeah,
Yes.
16 trees?
16 trees.
16 additional trees than what is presented right now.
Right, and it's gonna be 50/50, 50%.
And where?
On the south side, from the, by the southwest corner, and along the culvert area.
Can
On
can
south
I
side.
ask that the applicant draw on one of his plans what we're talking about, so we have a diagram of, that you guys agree to?
Yes, that sounds good.
I think we did already.
I might have a red pen if you don't.
We do right now.
We got it.
You got a red?
Just for clarification, so that I can have this, and do I need to provide this, or is that the area in question?
Yeah,
Those three areas,
those three areas.
roughly 5 at each one.
Yeah, or 6 and 4, whatever. Mix them up, whatever. Approximately 16 trees, 16 trees in those three areas.
Absolutely.
So that's marked up. Can we sign and date that?
Yeah, sign and date it.
And then give it to,
Can you give it to me? I'll scan it and send it to everybody.
yeah.
You sign it?
Please sign it.
I sign?
Yeah.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can turn around and sign it.
Places?
Right.
You write that.
And can we have a verbal description of what you're agreeing to as well, for the record?
So we are going to be planting an additional 16 trees.
Do me a favor, write down on that what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
16 trees, fifth,
Half giant arborvitaes,
Green giant everybody.
green giant arborvitaes, half spruce in the 3 circled areas on sheet number C 4.0. Good enough?
Yes.
And then on the west side, you're gonna add some green giant arborvitaes.
We're gonna replace some of the spruce
Some of the spruce.
with green giant arborvitae.
I have the comments about the adding in the arborvitaes, some of the green
Do you want that on there as well?
Yes, anything that you guys are agreeing to needs to go on the record.
So we're swapping out some of the spruce for green giant arborvitae on the west side.
well, not necessarily that, we'll fill in if there's areas behind that the neighborhood is more exposed, to fill into those areas. So if you get an area that's really dense, don't pull it out, but if you get an area where it's fairly thin and the neighbor, you know, you can see the neighbor, then you would fill in that area.
With the green
You know,
arborvitae.
does that make sense?
And that would be along
West side.
Correct.
the west side, so that area. Bare spots, we are to fill in with green giant arborvitae.
Correct.
And we will take particular view of, Mr. and Mrs. McNamee spoke and Mr. and Mrs. Aquino spoke. They're at 75 Chestnut and 87 Chestnut. So we will look in particular at that area to add.
The one, yeah, one of them was the southwest corner.
No, that's separate part.
No, but one of the people.
Yeah, that's one of the people they did bring up. I just looked at the,
I'm looking at the addresses, 75 and 87 Chestnut.
Chairman,
Yes.
we had a couple verbal agreements about noise. No music at practice and no create the non-town events.
Right, well, that'll be part of the condition, if the board
That'll
so
be-
moves.
I just wanted to.
Yeah,
I know, as we're going through
This
the
needs to be a
conditions,
visual
Yeah.
for us.
as we're going through the conditions,
Those are finals.
depending on where we get, if I don't mention it, please do, okay?
I mean, Steve, family, one of the key these trees. The Steve mentioned, Hackney and, Zeno, they're at either end of the trees on the west side.
So we'll look in particular to put some green giant arborvitaes there. Okay?
The address is 75 and 87 Chestnut. Those are the-
Yes.
Yes.
But again, down the whole line, if there are spots, regardless of whether that neighbor was here or not, please fill it in.
Mr. Chairman, make
Yes.
that the condition,
Yes.
specifically that if there's bare spots.
Right,
Because we
yeah.
can't tell that from this plan.
No, I
So
understand.
this way, during site inspection, we can look at that as part of the condition.
We have to reaffirm secret? Motion to reaffirm secret?
Mr. Mandel makes a motion, Mr. Andrews second, all in favor? Any opposed? None. Final with conditions?
Motion final with conditions.
Mr. Mandel, okay. Partial list. Office of Building, Zoning, and Planning, James Slavin, March 4th, she has 2. Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, Town of Orangetown, March 4th, Bruce Peters has 5. Booker Engineering, March 7th, they have 6. Rockland County Planning, February 14th, have 7.2.
Mr. Chairman, just confirm with the applicant that they can meet all the county comments?
Don't need an override, thank you.
Okay, Rockland County Health, February 16th, they have 1. Rockland County Highway Department, January 27th, they have 1. I have a letter from Ellen Hart, dated February 2nd. I have a letter from Alfred Gaddy, January 20th. And I have a letter from Rockland County Health Department dated February 16th, saying comments are attached. And I also have a letter, November 13th, 2021, from a budding neighbor.
I don't think that becomes a condition.
No, it's not a condition, I just want to. Yeah, you don't get,
Just make sure that it's not part of the approval resolution.
Yes, okay. Okay, I'm gonna go down to the board members to see if there's any other conditions you want to put in. Lisa, anything else you want to add?
No, I think Dominican College has always been a very good neighbor of Orangetown and provide a lot of good services to the community. And, you know, I know it's changed, but not all change is bad. And
You okay?
as long as we,
You already got hurt, that's all.
you know, they've done their due diligence, they've made a lot of changes from the initial application, extensive changes, as long as the following conditions that we've talked about tonight are addressed, no problem approving it. And thriving Dominican College is good for all of us, so.
Thank you very much. Mr. Andrews, anything additional?
I feel that what we discussed should meet our needs and the needs of the neighbors. I hope that's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mandel.
Just one quick thing. I grew up in New York City housing project by a subway, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Conditions, one of them was the PA system got used by other groups other than the college for games. Okay, and that's, the only music is pre-game, so to keep the decibel levels down. Okay. Not to be used during the summertime. Also, that all events and games, not part of the official college, we word that all groups renting the fields, that all games has to be concluded by 6 p.m.
Thank you, sir.
And
I thought you were going to go ahead. No, I did.
Okay, and no permanent or portable lighting will be permitted on the field at this time. And can we make those as site plan notes? That be correct on those? But this has conditions.
Well, I think the lighting should go on the plans, with respect to no lighting.
Yes, whenever you guys want to see on the plan.
Yeah, I think those should be on there, the 6 p.m. games and the PA system.
Thank you, sir.
And that's all I have at this time.
From my balcony, I can stick my hand out and hit the 6 train, so I know what you're talking about.
Imagine that, the train has a value window.
Oh, yeah, just let it in.
No, it's fun. The height of the trees to be planted, because was
10
that
foot.
10 foot? Okay,
Oh,
that's
yes, right.
that's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. McCory?
Just a thought, I've always said these great athletes deserve a top flying facility. So there's always discussion, like, is this actually the best use for it by the neighbors? So, you know, I walked in these neighbors' backyards and I saw how close this was. So, you know, it was tough for me, but, you know, the conditions are on, I hope it pleases the neighbors. The screening, like I said, we want the athletes to succeed, but our job is to really look after the neighbors, you know, and that's codified. So I like the changes, I wish there were more changes, but I hope the neighbors are happy and hope the students are happy. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Mr. Fari?
I want to know why you're not building a regulation track. That's a former track guy myself. But the important thing is here, we want to keep the neighbors happy, right? And whatever screening they want, I think they should get. Okay?
And with respect to the screening, along all the sides of the property owners, if there's vacant holes, fill them up with something. Okay, which I think you guys kind of agreed that you were gonna do.
Well, we got the plan.
Right.
With
But I'm saying,
some of the-
along that one area of the side of the scoreboard is, if there's a hole or something, stick something in.
You know, I don't think there's going to be a hole.
No, I
We're
understand.
replacing some of the spruce with
Right.
your requests and green giant arborvitaes.
I think we'll fill everything.
We'll look especially behind the macadamias and the equinos to see if we can put an extra one in there someplace. And when I say extra, I mean replace the spruce with the green giant arborvitae. Because I believe you all think that that would be better screening. So yes, we can do that. And we'll add the 16 trees along the southerly line in the places that we've indicated on that particular page, which we've given to Ms. Liddy.
So, Mr. Chairman, the requirement to fill in needs to be a condition, because if this is a year and a half to 2 years from now, the inspector has to be aware of that.
So it's a condition that blank spots or bare spots along the western side will be filled in with clean giant arborvitae.
I've been saying yes to everything, but I think that that's just a little vague, because right now we have a plan that pretty much covers everything along there. We've asked for certain changes, replace some of the spruces with, green giant arborvitaes, make the spruces 10 feet, we've agreed to that, but when you say we gotta fill in an area, I'm not sure where we have to fill it in, because the plan was pretty much complete as is. Was it not?
Yes. Maybe can I throw a suggestion? I don't know if this is even something that can be accomplished. If we identify, we would offer up another, say, 10 trees to be planted at the discretion during construction. If there's some spot that is not addressed specifically on the plans,
Then we can go back to the building inspector.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
That's
do,
a
to make
condition.
sure there's some parameters for
Right.
which the building inspector will act. Because if there's a conflict, we're sending you back here,
we can,
right? I'm trying to make sure it's clear, that's all.
Okay, so during the construction and inspection by the building department, if they find blank areas that need filling in, you'll have 10 trees that you will supply.
So that will be in the discretion of the building
Building
inspector.
inspector and
Is
building
that
inspector.
in addition to the 35 and the
Yeah, yes.
16?
Yes,
Right,
this-
so it may be fine, but we're talking, this could be 2 years from now, by the time
Right,
you're planting these trees.
And that the map that was submitted, how would you put that as a condition? Is the amendment to the planting or the landscape plan?
Which
No,
be a
put a
condition
note.
in your, a note.
On
It'll
the
be a
plans.
note.
Okay, well,
A
start
note is fine.
10 additional trees to be planted at the discretion of the town
right, town vote.
following the
And they may
initial
not even be
plans.
needed, but
Right.
again.
Right, at the discretion, right.
At the discretion of allowance.
Correct. Correct. Everybody, you all right?
We need a second.
Can I have a second?
We need a second.
Second. Mr. Andrews, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, sir. I say something. You guys are awesome, all right? Keep it up. Now, we have two resolutions, one with the electric vehicle charging, I have that. That's a separate sheet of paper, that's okay.
That's being continued, we started last night at the town board meeting.
Oh, okay.
The public hearing is still open, we'll continue, I think, April 12th.
April 12th, right.
Yeah.
Then we have a referral from Nyack Union Free School District, site improvements at the Nyack Middle School. So, interestingly enough, this property will be in the jurisdiction of the town of Orangetown come April 1st. Even though it's a school, so it was referred, take a look at it, site improvements, parking lot improvements. They're looking out for lead agency, and that's this package.
So we'll make a motion if we want to confirm that they could be the lead agency.
Is that what you want to do, or do we want to rename it?
Well, I don't think
No,
we
no,
can.
no, we can't, you
We
can't.
can't?
It's not ours yet.
Okay.
No.
Very soon.
Okay.
Right, so it's
So-
been referred, if you want, have comments that you'd like to offer, you can. But yes, lead agency, they're asking for lead agency, and
Does anybody have any comments on it?
I got one question though. What if we give them the agency, goes beyond April 1st, kicks back to us, or they still,
Yeah, because they disappear.
so that it kicks back to us?
There is no South Nyack come April 1st.
Right.
So if they don't finish everything, it's ours. It will devolve to ours.
But still, the school districts usually do their own.
School district.
That's true. School
Right.
district will be whatever the school district is.
right, it gets referred to the local municipality for lead agency, as well as if you have comments or concerns, as with any other referral, you can provide them.
Motion to refer it back to Nyack Union Free School District, and that they be act as lead agency for the review process.
Okay, that's the motion. Now, does anybody have any comments on this? Whether we want to do it or not? Do we want to go along with it, or do you have any comment pertaining to it? No? I don't think.
I second.
Okay, Mr. Andrews, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Thank you.
Accept the minutes.
Accept the minutes.
Okay, motion to accept the minutes from the
February 23rd.
January 23rd,
February.
February 23rd, 2022 meeting. Motion.
Did Andy have some comments in email?
They've,
Those adjusted?
But that was already corrected.
corrected.
All right.
We never get any corrections back,
Right.
so.
All right.
Chairman wasn't here, so he's not going to vote. Do we have a second?
And I was,
Lisa.
all in favor? All against?
And then we had confirmation from all three engineers that provided their cost estimates, their hourly rates for consultant. So we have three now instead of two, and they all agreed to have everything by the close of business on Monday before the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Gracious.
So we have, that is Collier's Engineering, LaBerge, and Brooker Engineering.
So we make a motion to,
No.
No, they've never only picked one. It's always been two. We now have a third option.
right, we have to make a motion accepting all three, it's fine the way it is.
Yeah, you just make a motion to accept all three as,
All right, motion to accept all three engineering companies.
Mr. Andrews, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Opposed? None?
Mr. Farrier was trying to say.
Look, I'm sure I'm there before.
Motion to adjourn meeting.
That's a second.
Mr. Ferry. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, not good. Because you wasn't recognized.